and welcome to Escaping Kasterborous, the podcast where we rewatch, reminisce, and review everything Doctor Who from 2005 to present. My name is Rich, and I'm joined by someone who I'd love to destroy with my big baubles. It's Amy.
Okay.
I thought of that one quite a while ago.
I was sat here thinking, I wonder what it's going to be this time. I was thinking it would be maybe something like I'd like to drown under the Thames or something like that. But...
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. At least, as much as I'm referring to the explosive baubles that were intending to kill, I was definitely going for the very, very, very rude connotation of that phrase. I don't want to destroy you or drown you. I do. I want to destroy. I want to drown you in love. I want to destroy that. Moving on. Merry Christmas. I guess
it's September.
Merry Christmas. It is September. Season 2 of Doctor Who. Sorry, Series 2. I'm British. Come on, Rich. Series 2 of Doctor Who is done and dusted. Rose is dead, but not dead.
She's not.
But she's kind of dead.
But she's not.
The Doctor's feeling all sad, and Donna Noble rocks the hell up in the TARDIS, and all hell breaks loose. Yes, it's time for the Runaway Bride, broadcast on the 25th of December 2006, the second Christmas special Doctor Who ever did. David Tennant's second special, and of course, the first appearance of Catherine Tate as Donna Noble, a character we all eventually got to know and love, because I think it's the best place to kick things off. Donna's a bitch.
Question. Who wrote the episode?
Take a wild guess. It was indeed.
Okay. I just couldn't remember for some reason.
We'll get onto the actual the narrative in a bit, but the first things first for me personally with this episode is it reaffirms why I was so gutted and annoyed when they said Catherine Tate's back for season 4 as Donna. Mm-hmm. Because she's a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. I mean, I sort of don't really know what to say about it because I quite enjoy the character. I think it's a nice, refreshing break from... I'm not saying that Rose was bad by any stretch, but it's quite a nice change from it's a permanency of the love kind of what's the word I'm looking for, dynamic that we had for the last two series, and she comes in and she's all like, oh, spaceman, or she hasn't said that yet, but you know what I mean, and I think it's quite a good, nice change of pace, because my English teacher told me to never say the word nice or lovely, but you know what I mean, it's a good change of pace.
You will be graded at the end of this podcast.
Fab. Expect a D-, lol. Wait, they don't grade in letters anymore, they grade in numbers. Expect a 6, whatever that is, I don't know. Anyway. I
just made a dick joke, and either you ignored it or you didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it. I'm going to carry on.
Well.
But yeah, I quite, I don't appreciate the fact that she's so inherently, rude to start with. But I do appreciate the fact that her character throughout the episode goes through a hefty personality shift from where she starts to where she ends, because she starts off being very much like, who are you? Where the hell is this place? Slapping the Doctor and being all kind of like, oh my god, you're so nasty to me, and I'm gonna be a bitch, and you know, the fact that she doesn't right at the start, she obviously picks up Rose's jacket and is all, oh, I knew it, who else have you got kidnapped and whatever, and she just doesn't pick up on the fact that he's clearly upset by it, until she sort of stops and is like, hang on a minute, am I crossing a line? And then throughout the episode, you just see her progressively get more and more in tune with him, and she then calms down a bit, which I think then kind of leads the way into her being Donna as we then know her in the later series.
It's definitely not necessarily a stark change between Runaway Bride Donna and Series 4 Donna. There is a bit of that progression, But I still think there is this horrid arrogance that when you look back in retrospect, you can kind of, I guess, appreciate more as to how she is, and there's always that there's comfort in the knowledge that she doesn't remain like this as a character in Doctor Who. She becomes so much better.
But I suppose at the time we didn't know that.
It doesn't take. We didn't know that, but it doesn't take away the fact that I don't like her in this episode.
That's totally fair.
Not only as like a character, like I dislike Donna Noble as a person, I guess, but I just don't like seeing her in general in this episode. It's bad because people really, really like Donna, and I can appreciate it more now. I used to very much still be, after Series 4 aired for the first time in 2008, like, I didn't enjoy it because it had Donna in it back in 2008. Simple as. I was very stubborn in my ways then.
I always quite enjoyed Donna as a character. Like, when I first saw Catherine Tate, it was a bit weird and a bit kind of jarring because although I'd not ever really watched...
We all knew her as Lauren Cooper and Nan.
To be fair, I'd never really watched the Catherine Tate show, so it wasn't like I already had a character that I sort of knew her to play, but it was more that I had seen her from other things. And so I think it was the first time that since probably Doctor Who's reconception in 2005, correct me if I'm wrong because I probably am, but the first time they'd got a quote-unquote celebrity in as a role. Is that right?
Since
2005.
I mean,
I say quote-unquote celebrity because I'm using that in the loosest sense, but like somebody slightly more well-known.
It's sort of leaning more on a celebrity guest.
Yeah,
because
but it's not supposed to be.
Simon Pegg.
Mm-hmm.
But
what I mean is,
I get what you mean.
Other than Simon Pegg, which again was kind of a little bit jarring back when I first watched it.
I mean, 2005 Simon Pegg is nowhere near as big as current Simon Pegg.
But
what year was Shaun of the Dead? Was that 2004? I'm gonna check.
But for me, it felt a little bit jarring because I knew who she was, and she was the first kind of like slightly higher profile actress that they'd had in to play a role. And so I think the first time I watched it took me a little bit of time to get past, it's Catherine Tate, as opposed to it's Donna Noble. Yeah. But I really do like Donna's character. I think she's fun. I think she's kind of brings a different energy to it. And as I've probably mentioned a million times, I don't particularly like Martha. So the change from... It went from kind of like this super lovey-dovey thing with Rose to them like being best friends to a quick brisk of Donna to then Martha, who is basically trying to be Rose 2.0 but is never ever going to be Rose 2.0. And I just don't care for Martha's like progression as a character. I mean, I'm getting a bit too ahead of myself for the thing. But
I was going to say, we'll save that for when we get round to it.
What I'm saying is, I quite enjoyed Donna in this episode because she's different, and after watching it a fair few times throughout all my life of rewatching the series, I don't see Catherine Tate anymore. I see Donna Noble.
No. Yeah. And that goes to show how good she got at being this character and how loved she was. But yeah, I guess that's our first sort of position to disagree on with this episode. I get, she brings a different energy, and you're right, that juxtaposition of the lovey-dovey, comfortable nature that the Doctor had with Rose, and then all of a sudden we have this loud, this brash, this abrasive character coming out of the blue. It's kind of like, it felt at first, I mean, this was still, I guess, Russell finding his feet with this character, because when you look at Series 4, you have, you get the best of both worlds. You get the abrasive, not so much abrasive anymore, the loud and proud Donna Noble, says what she thinks, basically has no filter, and that's brilliant. But you get the moments, you get that glimmer of Series 4 Donna, of what I'd say to be the true Donna, come the end of the episode when she's telling the Doctor to stop. Like, that's that's a quality that Donna has, and she's
definitely.
bang on with that, and that's what makes her so good. But like the rest of the time, she's just I don't know. It feels like an uphill struggle watching her sometimes. It's kind of like you know what I have realized what I was going to say. Realized what I was getting to. Like Russell nails the you're meant to like this character in series 4. He doesn't in Sonic Christmas Invasion, Runaway Bride. I think it takes a little bit of time. The ending when she's suddenly really nice, and I get that she's been through a lot, like, but there's still a bit like I don't know. It doesn't. Maybe this is just me. Maybe this is me harking back to how I felt in 2006 watching this and just thinking, what on earth am I watching? And I do not like this character. But I feel like it doesn't feel as sort of natural. I think if Donna had maybe taken a little more of a I wouldn't say necessarily an interest, because she is interested in Rose, who Rose was, because she keeps asking the question and it ends with the question. I feel like if, for example, her mind was changed about the Doctor in a bit more of an explicit way, a bit more of a fleshed out way than what it was.
Yeah.
Maybe I could appreciate her sort of change of heart throughout the course of the episode. And as you said, she goes through a hell of a lot in this episode. A lot of stuff happens to her. So you can't really blame her for being very like volatile.
Yeah.
But I think if they gave her a little bit more time to be with this very broken Doctor, you get glimmers of it, but it doesn't seem like it haunts him as much as I know that it's a Christmas special. I know that it's big and wacky, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But you get the glimmers of it. But I feel like to make her arc in that episode alone work a little bit better, I think they could have lent on where the Doctor was and her really getting to appreciate what happens.
Yeah,
and maybe that would make her trust him more.
I do agree, and I think...
And I get that's probably a lot to ask to fit into, what is it, an hour?
Well, that's exactly what I was just about to say. I think you got to remember that this is the first time that Jesus Christ, Eccleston, not Eccleston, that Russell T Davies is writing a Christmas special with a guest character. Because we see it a lot from this point on, where the Christmas specials focus mainly around something completely outside of the story. Whereas the first Christmas special, but the first Christmas special we had was just kind of an extension of the story, and it was getting to know David's Doctor. So we got that opportunity to play around with the character a lot more because we knew that his character was going to continue onwards. Whereas with Donna, in this episode, she was supposed to just be a one-episode character. Like, she wasn't really planned to be Donna Noble for a foreseeable future. And so maybe we're seeing it from a hindsight perspective of knowing that she becomes a more prominent character. But at the time of Russell writing this episode, he was probably thinking he just needed to pack in kind of the wackiness, the silliness, get us to know Donna's character really quickly, and progress from that point onwards, rather than us getting to know Donna as a person more thoroughly.
Yeah, that's true.
In that episode.
Yeah.
But I said to you as well when we were watching that I think the reason why they don't dwell on his sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Why they don't sort of dwell on his sadness as much as they probably could have done is because it sort of feels like, to the audience, like you are experiencing a breakup, like a very severe, difficult breakup with a partner alongside the Doctor, because essentially he's lost the love of his life. Like, he can never see her again, and it's all quite depressing. But that's not what a Christmas special is. A Christmas special isn't depressing. A Christmas special is supposed to be fun and quirky. But Russell has this really, like, sort of in tune way of weaving those little elements of the Doctor's grief into the script and the episode in a way that you obviously see the flashes of it, like when he's at the party and he's picturing him and Rose dancing together, not dancing together, but like her collapsing and him catching her and that kind of thing from New Earth. You sort of see that glimmer of like him dwelling on it, but he always is trying to pull himself back to the present. Like when they're sat on the rooftop and she says, "Who was she?" and he just completely ignores the question because he's trying to focus on the present, not so much the past. Because as well, what you've got to remember is that the Doctor's character goes on from here and obviously has that whole thing with Martha about, like, who Rose was and how you see it in the upcoming trailer, like, where he says, you're not replacing her. And Martha's like, I never said I was. And so we get that progression of the Doctor's sort of, God, what's the word I'm looking for here? I always get lost on words. But basically the progression of his emotional state from losing Rose to progressing past that. And so this is the first time that we as the audience have seen him since he lost her. So the hints to it are there. We know it's there.
Yeah.
But I think the whole purpose of Donna not being quite so invested is to maybe lead the audience into, we're starting to get something new, and like we're not dwelling on the fact that Rose is gone, because
it's like, we don't have time anymore.
Yeah, basically. Like, she's gone, she's done with, she's left, we need to move on. And so I think he does it really cleverly in the fact that he kind of leads the audience through this, like, breakup with the Doctor. And yeah, you kind of get that at the end when Donna says, what was her name? And the Doctor finally answers her and is like, oh, her name was Rose. But he literally says, like, not much more than that. Like, you know, every time he talks about her, he kind of has to bring himself back to the present. And I think in those moments, Donna does handle that quite well. But then for the majority of the episode, you just get a fun, quirky Christmas episode. And I think that's why Donna's character was so brash, because you needed that stark contrast to be able to kind of force you back away from that, like, Rose depressive pit. Does that make sense?
It very much does. And you've definitely sort of completely overtaken everything I've said and made me feel stupid.
No, but you're allowed to have your own opinion. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. But anyway, okay, let's quickly talk about the story itself then, and the silliness, because, you know, when we talked about the Christmas invasion, it is a big silly episode, and definitely. it's one of the best things about it. You know, it's a Christmas special. It's not necessarily part of the series. The only time we really had a Christmas special that, or at least that I can think of, at least properly, like that really ties into what is going on in the grand scheme of the universe, was End of Time Part 1, David Tennant's penultimate episode.
Yes.
With Wilf and the Master and so on. Like, most of the time they are just big silly things, and if you've watched Christmas specials going through to the most recent Christmas special, which would have been Twice Upon a Time.
3 years ago?
Probably longer than that.
4 years ago?
Something like that. It was Capaldi's last special, was the last Christmas special. They're very hit and miss, basically. I hate to say it, but the vast majority of Matt Smith's Christmas specials were pretty bad.
Apart from A Christmas Carol, which was dope.
Apart from A Christmas Carol, his first one, which is one of the best, and then the rest of them are completely terrible. The Runaway Bride leans into that wackiness more, Donna being a very big part of it. And I don't mind the wackiness. There are some sort of cringy moments, but again, it's designed for Christmas viewing. The girl screaming at the bolt of lightning that's moving about. You know, it's like the Austin Powers skit of the guy going, really with the steamroller really, really slowly going towards him. It's just kind of a bit awkward. I'm not sure. Austin Powers, the guy who's like, he's being chased down by a steamroller that's moving really slowly, and he's just stood there going and it just slowly crushes him.
I don't think I've seen that, but yeah, okay, I see your point. Okay,
I don't know whether that's Goldmember or
all I can picture is the really, really slow moving laser that's going to chop him in half and gets progressively closer to his nuts.
I think that's just did they do that in Austin Powers?
I'm sure they did, because they really focused on the fact that he was going to cut his balls in half.
Because like they do it in Itchy and Scratchy, they do it in You Only Move Twice. Both in The Simpsons.
I know it was a James Bond thing, obviously, but I'm pretty sure they focused on it in Austin Powers.
It doesn't sound out of place in Austin Powers, but anyway.
But no, I know what you mean, because I stood there and went, "Oh yeah, girl, why don't you just stand there and scream at it? That's going to stop it."
I think the story in this one is a bit. It's a bit, I would say weird, because weird's not the right word, because it's Doctor Who. It is weird.
No,
but I think
it feels a little bit disjointed.
Yes.
That's the word you're looking for.
I think the thing that sets this apart, because I'm going to come right out and say it, Christmas Invasion is better than Runaway Bride.
Oh, absolutely. That's not even a question.
I think one of the main reasons why it feels so different to what came before is because the sense of peril is minute in the grand scheme of things. It's a story, apart from at the end when the Christmas star comes down and starts zapping little girls very slowly. All the peril is based upon Donna, and that's it.
Yeah.
I know that obviously the Rachnos coming back and devouring everything, which, you know, obviously isn't going to happen. But it's like, none of that is such a late addition to the whole plot that it doesn't feel like it's a big deal. Whereas the Christmas Invasion came straight in. Yeah, Christmas Invasion came straight in and went, hey guys, the entire bloody world is in danger.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Christmas Invasion works so well, because they weren't introducing new characters. I mean, they were introducing a new character. It was David Tennant's debut. But it's like, because they didn't have a whole other character that we needed to know, because it's the Doctor. There's some extent we know at least a good half of the character. The remaining half is always specific to each iteration of the Doctor.
Yeah.
They could go bigger with the threat, whereas with this they kind of couldn't.
Yeah, and I sort of feel
like it jumps around a bit, and it's just a bit like and a lot of the plot stuff, as we discovered, a lot of the sort of minute plot details we barely even remembered.
Yeah, there's like, I was going to say that, there's like points throughout it that I was thinking, yeah, but like, what's the point of that though? Yeah, but like, what's the point? Like, what does that have to do with anything? And yes, it's explained in some sort of a way.
To some extent.
But I would like to point out one thing to people who are listening. When we watch these, we're watching them on the Blu-rays, and for some reason they've done a very bad job of mixing the audio, and so sometimes we can literally like not hear what's being said in the dialogue because the background music is so loud. So there are some key points that we missed.
If there's anyone listening who has, because I'm in the process of collecting all the new Steelbooks that they started back in like 2017, 2018, and they've just released season 8. So Capaldi's first series, and I'm just constantly refreshing, waiting for the next one because I don't want to miss them because they're not on sale very long. Series 1 and so far the Series 3 box set have had pretty iffy audio. Like, all the background music swallows up the dialogue. Series 2 is okay. And I think towards the end of Series 1 it was a bit better, but it just, for some reason, the mix just feels really off. But then again, you've had that with like the Tangled series on Disney Plus, where the mix is really bad.
I don't know. Sometimes I think it's just things don't really, either they don't come through our telly properly or it's the DVDs and whatever. But
well, no, because we still had that problem with our old TV.
That's
so
true. But I think
it's more than likely going to be the Blu-ray.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the point. My point is that if there are any key points of the plot that we might have missed because we didn't quite hear them, then apologies if this point is obviously null and void. But like, it seemed to me like a lot of the stuff that was becoming a key point was never quite rounded off properly. So like the Huon particles, he obviously was like, oh yes, of course, your wedding day, blah, 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 this, that and the other, loads of emotions, etc. And then it just kind of ends with a slap. And she's like, is it dangerous? And it doesn't really sort of get explained, like, why did Torchwood build a base under the Thames?
Yeah.
Why is that a thing? Like, what did they... Because I said to you, did they anticipate that this was going to happen? Or did they just build a lab for no reason and it just happens to be that the Doctor can conveniently flood it? Like, it just seems to be like a plot device.
Yeah, it's like a Deus Ex Machina, almost. It's like, why would Torchwood build... I mean, if they're building a lab under the Thames, I was like, yes, probably because you wouldn't really look under the Thames, I guess, for a secret lab, as much as it makes a lot of sense in, like, supervillain terms. But yeah, experimenting with Huon particles, it's kind of like, yeah, but why? Because it's not explained as to why they're putting Huon particles into liquid form, and then it's not explained as to why there is a tunnel to the middle of the Earth. Did the Rachnos take over Torchwood secretly, or is it just Lance under her control?
Yeah, literally, because like there's no staff there. Where did the staff go? Did she eat them all?
Well, obviously, the Torchwood is done, or at this point in time, Torchwood is done.
But it's not though, because
Captain
he
Jack's Torchwood is kind of there, kind of not. Like,
but because
it's a rebirth of it.
Doesn't the Doctor say, "Oh, Torchwood got finished in the Battle of Canary Wharf, but somebody continued it on"? So if somebody continued it on and what was that word? Built H.C. Clements to mask the fact that Torchwood was under the earth or under the Thames, then why is there no staff? Did she eat them all? Because that's what
was the whole H.C. Clements doing security in their logo because they keep talking about how the person who's, you know, saturated in Huon particles is the key as just some kind of like, here's a plot thing you saw that you can now reference and be like, oh, it's all clever. It's like it does feel a little bit all over the place, this episode, and it's kind of a shame.
I don't want to say it,
but then I say that I say it's kind of a shame. It's like almost like an autopilot thing. Apart from probably Donna, it doesn't feel like there's much you could really salvage out of this. It's a bit of a mess.
And the Ragnos...
It's not like it's not an unwatchable mess like Orphan 55, but it's like it is a bit of a mess. But yeah, okay, the Ragnos, the Empress of the Ragnos.
Let's talk about her. She makes me feel.
I've never liked how that character is portrayed by Sarah Parish, but watching it again, it is insufferably bad.
It's awful, isn't it? And I said to you, I'm just concerned about how much she must have been spitting over everything because of the whole all the time.
Yeah.
Like, sorry for that noise, but it's just really, it makes me feel like I need to constantly be swallowing because I'm worried about how much saliva I'm producing, and it's like, it feels disgusting, it feels cringe, and she kind of feels like a caricature of a typical Doctor Who villain, because the Doctor Who villains are always quite they're
larger than life.
Yeah, but in terms of like, some of them are obviously quite I want to say down to earth, lol, most of them are aliens, but what I mean is a lot of the villains or / monsters of the week in Doctor Who don't seem kind of inconceivable that would be like, okay, possible, lol, obviously it's a fiction show, but do you know what I mean by that? Like, they're all kind of like, I can see them, like, suspension of disbelief is basically what I'm saying there. Whereas with the Ragnos, the Empress of the Ragnos, I can only see a woman in a big costume overacting this monster of the week. Like, it feels very cartoonish, very, we need it to be a family show this week, so let's make her big and flamboyant and red and scary with fangs.
It's Christmas, let's go all...
Basically.
Yeah.
Whereas I think I'd have much preferred it if the villain of the week was just the Santa robots.
I think if you compared it to the Ragnos as a whole, then but I think obviously being just the Santa robots wouldn't have made much sense. It needed some kind of justification, but then... And I see what you mean.
Do you know, like, what was the whole point of Donna Like, I said to you, didn't I? I said, what was the point of feeding Donna Huon particles over 6 months if they can just force feed it to Lance in 2 minutes? What was that about?
It doesn't make much sense. There are a lot of holes to pick in it, and I think if it were performed well, you probably wouldn't think much of it, and you go, yeah, it's Doctor Who, screw it. It's silly, it's big, it's dumb.
That's what I mean, suspension of disbelief.
But it's because of the way that things are portrayed. I think obviously this iteration of Donna probably doesn't help matters, and the Empress of the Ragnos especially doesn't. Like, it was just so cringy watching her talk, and it's like, I believe, as far as I know, that she's a very good actress.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
But it's just like, what was that? My thoughts will always go back to Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror from series 12.
Yeah.
You had the Skithra, and you had I can't remember her name. I'm going to butcher it probably. Anjali Mohindra played the Queen. She used to be in Sarah Jane Adventures playing Rani.
Oh, right, okay.
She's also in a relationship with Sacha Dhawan.
Okay, fair enough.
And is also really hot. But basically, she played this very, very Ragnos-like character in Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror.
Because I'm pretty sure I thought it was the Ragnos when we were first watching it.
I think a lot of us did think it was the Ragnos. And I've just very quickly checked the TARDIS wiki because I couldn't remember whether they made any kind of reference to the Rachnos in the same way that you've got like the Absorbaloff was in sort of tied into Rex Coracophalomotorus in some way. I thought maybe there was something to do with the Rachnos, but there's not. No. But it's like that kind of character, like as Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror was all right. I enjoyed it. But the way that character was done, it was this leader of a very big, arachnidy style. Obviously not, they're not spiders, they're scorpions, but like that kind of style race, and it was actually pretty good, and she performed it well because I can always picture this one scene which kind of like snaps and like hisses and stuff in Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, and it's done on the sly because they do lean into the fact that there's this sort of humanoid approach. I want to say she was like fully humanoid with a tail, maybe. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head.
I can't remember.
But it wasn't anything near as weird as the Empress of the Rachnos, who looks like a Dark Souls boss. There's literally a Dark Souls boss, which is a big spider, but the torso of the woman is like naked and very attractive, which is that weird anyway.
Of course.
That is if it's amazing to take an episode that's from the Chibnall era and say, what if they did it like this, and it would have probably been better.
Yeah.
But like the Skithra, I felt at least the Queen Skithra was done better in arguably that same kind of position, or that same kind of makeup, that same kind of performance compared to how the Empress of the Rachnos was done. And that is one of the big sort of oh goodness me, this isn't great things.
The other thing I found kind of jarring with this episode is her spaceship was basically just put into the episode to be, it's a Christmas star, and like had no other purpose whatsoever. Because when she's first introduced, you get this backwards shot of her in her web thing, and she's like pointing at the Doctor, and she's all like, you man, spaceman, bride, and it's like, I don't really understand the point. Like, that didn't need to happen. He could have just said, oh, it's off Earth, and we could have seen her point at the screen, but we didn't need that shot of behind her with the web or any of that rubbish.
They could have maybe done more with like spider webs through the course of like the areas they were searching for, and like because the idea of unseen spidery things, like look at say as much as Kill the Moon is a bit of a
arachnids in the UK.
The sort of arachnids in the UK and Kill the Moon's like spidery style bacteria things on the moon. Like that was more freaky because it was implying it's not. Whereas with this, they just went, bada boom. Here's what is very clearly
spider.
A spider. You can't tell that she's got this humanoid like torso, but still.
Yeah, but it just kind of feels like they literally put it in so that they could have that one child go, it's a Christmas miracle, or whatever it was she bloody said. And like, because she does the whole kill the humans, turn them to meat or whatever, but I'm pretty sure you don't need to obliterate the humans before you eat them, because if you're obliterating them before you eat them, you're gonna have nothing to eat. So why are you vaporizing them? What's the point of that? And the whole thing at the end, the whole point of Donna telling the Doctor to stop was so he didn't kill her, because he could have easily just killed the Rachnos on the spot. He basically drowned all her children. But also, how does the Thames fill a hole to the centre of the Earth? That wouldn't happen. But more to the point, it's like, what was the whole point of Donna needing to stop him before he killed her if the resolution to this episode was the Doctor just running away while some tanks blew up the spaceship? Like, literally, they could have had the ending to this episode be that the Rachnos decided that actually she was going to, like, her children were all dead, there was no hope for her ever rescuing them, that she was just going to go and live out her days on another planet and do whatever. But they decided to bring out the tanks and blow up the spaceship because the spaceship had already been introduced.
By order of Mr. Saxon.
Yeah, okay, maybe that was why they threw it in. But more to the point, Why? Like, the spaceship was not necessary in this whole plot. You could have cut out that entire scene with everyone on the street running around screaming, and it would have still been the same episode. Because I feel like you got enough panic out of Donna's family for the whole episode. You didn't need the general public crying and screaming like we had in the last Christmas special, because we've done that already. It's like, we get it, the threat could be to us. Fantastic, let's carry on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the whole spaceship thing wasn't really necessary.
It's just a bit of a mess overall, and it's one of those things where I kind of remembered the rough plot of Donna being poisoned by Lance and the Rachnos, and then the children are drowned and she gets blown up, and that's about it. But the intricacies just it gives it more holes to pick apart, and that's what we do on this podcast. We pick it apart.
Yeah, basically.
So it's like, it's not, as I said, it's not one of those specials that I look back at and think, I can put that wackiness away because it's Doctor Who. Like, I can do that with Love and Monsters as a recent example. There's a lot about that I think you could salvage and turn into something genuinely good. Mm-hmm. With this one, not so much. It would probably need a full rework, and I'd argue that it's one of the weaker stories that Russell has written, at least thus far.
Definitely.
Which, as said, is a shame. It's a Christmas special.
Okay, what's worse, this or Fear Her?
Events. Oh, Fear Her.
Yeah, okay, good. Glad we're on the same page.
I'd say Fear Her is probably worse than this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit of a shame. Honestly, right, I've just been doing some research very, very quickly, looking at some story notes about Runaway Bride, because when the Rachnos asks where the Doctor's from and the Doctor says Gallifrey, you said, is this the first time he says it?
Yes.
And you are right, it is the first time it's said in the revival era.
Because as far as I'm aware,
I couldn't remember whether
he'd
mentioned it in the series too.
Yeah,
Eccleston never says it.
And so I don't think Rose ever actually found out where he was from, did she? Or did she?
She didn't. I mean, maybe.
Or did he ever mention? I don't think he mentioned his planet, but he mentioned the Time Lords, obviously, didn't he? Did he tell her about the Time War? I want to say. Done?
Yeah, I assume so.
Because we know about it by this point, don't we? So.
Yes. Well, yeah, he literally tells her about. I mean, Eccleston tells her about the Time War. Mm-hmm. Even if it does mention the Time War by name, but
it just made me think
that is the first time Gallifrey is mentioned,
because the way he said it was so poignant, and they gave it so much emphasis on that single word. Like, he literally stops and goes, Gallifrey, and it was very like,
well, it would have it was the first time it had been said on screen since probably 1996,
and that's what made me realise it probably was the first time it had been said, because of the fact that they gave it so much weight. And then she goes, you destroyed the Rachnos before. Where was that plot point? Why did we need to like, how is that relevant to... Is it just so she gets all frightened and scared and is all like, oh my god, I'm gonna die?
I think this is where they're going to really start. I mean, obviously, with what is to come, they're going to start leaning more on what came before, and referencing Gallifrey and the Time War and stuff. So they had to sort of finally bite the bullet, plant that seed, and obviously doing it at a Christmas special is a pretty big one. So it's like... Yeah,
it kind of starts...
It's a good place to do it, but...
It starts feeding into a little bit of where we start to see Tennant's Doctor becoming more of that character that eventually morphs into who he is. No spoilers, but like who his character becomes towards the very end of Tennant's run, and then into Matt Smith's kind of god complex. Like, this is the very first time we hear anybody mention how terrified they are of the Time Lords and Gallifrey.
Something we'll get to when we get towards 2009. That god complex is done magnificently with Tennant.
Yes.
And it's not done very well with Matt Smith. But anyway, in regards to some fun facts about the episode,
please
that I've just been reminded of. These are things I mentioned to Amy during the episode. These aren't things I'm just randomly reading off an article on the Doctor Who wiki. First things first, this is the first time in the new series that the Doctor Who logo in the title sequence has that same sort of texture as the logo appears in all of its branding, because if you watch series 1 and 2, the Doctor Who logo has this sort of bronze, brassy metal texture, whereas in this, it's almost like they've stuck over the texture they use, that sort of fiery brown to red to yellow, on the actual title sequence. So this is like almost like a not a fully remade sequence, but they replaced the logo at least with this new one, which is interesting, I guess. Another thing is the point when the Doctor. It is indeed. Now, this is something that was shown in Doctor Who Confidential back in the day. It might be on the cut down. We'll have to find out. But I remember seeing this, and it's always stuck with me. The point when Tennant zaps the ATM and shoots money out all over the street to distract or to get away from the Santas. All of those banknotes, obviously, are fake.
Yeah.
And they have to be clearly fake, but convincing enough as a quick glance on screen to look right. So what they did is they made a bunch of £10 and £20 notes. And on the £10 note, instead of the Queen, it's David Tennant. And on the £20 notes, instead of the Queen, it is Phil Collinson, one of the producers, on the notes. They made loads and loads and loads of those.
Someone somewhere.
And I wonder if you can...
Were you going to say someone somewhere has one? Because, like...
people are going to bounce. They made thousands of them, so people are going to have them. And I bet you
somewhere
they were selling
bought
them
it
as
off
like
a collector's
memorabilia
website or something. Like,
yeah, exactly. And okay, I'm lying a bit now. I did read this very quickly on this wiki page, but this is something interesting. There were a bunch of scenes cut from this, 'cause obviously with a longer runtime of 60, I believe it's 60 minutes.
Yeah, the Christmas specials are usually a little bit longer.
Yes. Yeah. They would have cut more scenes because they get to write. They've got a bit more wiggle room. Russell had a bit more wiggle room to write more, and so a bunch of scenes were cut. And one of them was the Doctor and Donna getting back to the wedding reception, because obviously you see them sat on the roof, and then it just cuts to the reception. And there was a scene where the Doctor and Donna got a bus.
Oh.
And on the bus, they were going to bring back Mrs. Croot from Love and Monsters to just be on the bus as another cameo.
Which one was she?
Mrs. Croot. She is the woman who tells Elton Pope who Rose is, and she's also the woman who played the aunt in the Basil Brush show that we talked about.
Oh, her, yes.
After we watched Love and Monsters, so she was going to come back in this episode as like a quick cameo on a bus, but that shot got shot, but it was cut.
Christ.
So, she's done a lot. Bella Emberg, her name was.
She
has done lots in her career,
somewhere.
but she will always be to me the aunt in the Basil Brush show. But we've gushed on about the Basil Brush show a couple of episodes ago, so we won't go on about that. But yeah, so
do we have any
Runaway
questions?
Bride is an interesting beast. Yeah, that's what I was going to just check. It's a bit of a flimsy one. It's a bit all over the place. Donna hasn't really been nailed down yet, but why would she be? Because as from what I can see, I don't think there were plans that it was nailed down that she was going to be a companion after series 3.
Mm-hmm. Did
which
Martha
by this point,
only
by the
do
looks
one
of it,
series?
She did, but she appears in series 4.
Yeah, for some reason I
And then
always
she did.
picture that Martha does more than one series.
I think it's because there's so much of her in because she literally appears in series 4 twice. Halfway through and then at the end, and then she does like half a series of Torchwood. Yeah. Because she's in series 2. So it's like she's actually quite omnipresent in Doctor Who over the course of about 2 years. Which I think is kind of cool, that this companion kind of comes and leaves on her own terms.
Yeah, definitely.
But still kind of sticks around. I like that about Martha's character and how she's still present in the Whoniverse. And also she's doing Big Finish now.
Yes.
Free Regimen. So, and it's going to be exploring the year that never was, which is going to be interesting. Anyway, yes. Yeah, questions. Misha asks, there are a lot of people out there in the fandom who think Donna would have been a good companion for 9 and that they would have gotten along well. What are your thoughts on this?
No.
I think that Donna would raise her voice at 9 once, and 9 would cut her down to flipping size.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not being funny, but the reason it works so well with Tennant is because he has that whimsical, comical response to it.
Awkwardness at times as well.
Eccleston would have just slapped her right back and would have just been like...
Eccleston's comedic moments are brilliant.
Yeah, but they're
comedic I love the most about that Doctor,
because
but
he's more sarcastic. They're not comedic
and
because he's funny.
He's a solo act.
Yeah. Whereas the Tennant needs a partner to kind of bounce off for that. And Donna and Tennant work quite well because of that kind of like duo thing that they have going on. I just can't imagine Donna shouting at Eccleston because, like you said, Eccleston would have just cut her down to size straight away. And then the whole pairing would have just been kind of them bickering because I just can't see them getting on at all.
It wouldn't have made for good viewing. I think that if they were... Imagine like they were friends already. Like we're introduced to Donna, the Doctor having known her for years at this point. They could be one of those characters where they bring it in and they just mouth off at each other, mouth off, and then just sort of start laughing about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're taking the piss, we're kidding. We're actually really good friends, but we will genuinely cut each other's heads off if we have to. Like, that's probably the only way that dynamic would work. And in the space of obviously one series, you know, hypothetically at this point, it just would not have worked.
I think it would have been a bit much, to be honest, because like the reason that Rose works so well with Eccleston is because she was able to give him a reality check from time to time, but it was more
in the same way Donna does for Tennant.
Yeah, it was more like a fatherly figure for Eccleston to be like sort of loving Rose. Like I think as much as she loved him more like a sort of love for a family member to start with, and then when he became fit, she was like, I'll have a piece of you.
Are you saying Eccleston isn't fit?
No, I'm saying that for Rose, she was quite young. So it would be a bit weird.
It's definitely the case that the Doctor fell for Rose first.
Yes, absolutely. But
100,000,000%.
It's, I think, to be trying to put that fatherly figure with Donna's character, it don't work. Like, it wouldn't work. And speaking of fatherly figures, Donna has a dad in this episode.
Yes, I just checked up on that because we were like, hang on a minute, Donna's dad isn't around in series 4.
I'm pretty sure he's gone or dead.
It's because the actor did die. During I think they'd shot some of the opening of series 4, and with this actor, his name was Howard Atfield,
right?
But he died before series 4, or there must have been really early on in series 4's production, which is why he was then replaced with Wilf as the grandfather, which is why you don't see Wilf in Christmas Invasion. And as sad as that is that Howard Atfield passed away before series 4 got into production, we got Wilf out of it, who is arguably
10 times
if I
better.
had to rank all the companions of New Who, Wilf is the top.
Oh, Wilf
no
is
question.
up there. Like,
Wilf is god
easily.
tier.
I mean, it's almost worth suffering through Donna to get Wilf. In a way.
Do you know what? That's, as harsh as that sounds, it is kind of fair. Bernard Cribbins is an absolute treasure.
Oh, he's a saint.
So, and if you are watching this for the first time, just you wait until we get to Voyage of the Damned and you get to meet Wilf for the first time.
I'm so excited.
But if you want to see him now, go watch Invasion Earth 2150 AD, the Peter Cushing sequel, because he's in that as Tom, a policeman who travels with the Doctor. It's amazing.
But yeah, I just thought I'd bring it up.
In answer to your question, Misha, that's probably
Not
wouldn't
really
work. I think there's an element of series 4 Donna that would, but I think one of the key parts of her character just would not click with 9, unfortunately.
No, they're too similar.
John is putting across not a question, but says, thank God they fix her in series 4.
Yeah, basically.
She was insufferable in this episode. Yeah. So John shares the same kind of sentiment as me.
Yeah.
Also, not another question. There's only been the one question this week. But Peter sends us his thoughts, saying, I know Donna is going to get dumped on, but I wanted to give my take because she's always been my favourite companion, even in this episode. Instead of fawning over the Doctor like other companions, Donna presents him with another aspect of humanity. It's an aspect that may be insufferable, but many humans can be pretty insufferable. It's played for laughs, but at the same time it gives the Doctor something new to play off instead of the typical companion. Donna being the best companion is a hill I will gladly die on.
Fair.
So that kind of echoes what you said.
I respect your viewpoint there because, yeah, he's right. Like, humanity...
It is a different take.
This is what I said. The general public are pricks, basically. Like,
yeah.
as a collective...
Yeah, you guys all suck.
I'm not talking about, like, people specifically. But what I mean is...
Everyone except the Kasterpodians suck.
Yeah. As a collective, you could say the human race are arseholes. We are all wankers, and we're all going to die being wankers. Regardless of, like, individual people and, like, how nice you try and be. Donna does represent a fair portion of the population that just don't want to take any crap from people. And, you know, fair play to her, to be honest. But also the fact that she's constantly like, will you marry me? Please, 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 please. But it is that insufferable kind of like, but you do get people like that. And, you know, I very much agree with that point. Yeah, good, clever, well done.
There you go, Peter.
That's my 2 cents.
Approval. So, yeah, if we had to rank specials, I think we agree that Christmas Invasion is better than The Runaway Bride. But
Problem
there
is we can't rank.
Unfortunately, there is unfortunately worse Christmas specials to come.
Well, this is what I was going to say.
But that's something we'll worry about once we get through series 3.
We unfortunately can't rank Christmas specials so far when there's only been 2 of them. But so far, this is number 2.
It is number 2. It's not a number 2. There are elements of it that are enjoyable, and, you know, we get our first dose of Donna that thankfully gets more sort of refined and purified in series 4.
I mean,
so
I don't hate
when I see
this
that
episode.
promo. I don't hate it either. I think there is still an element of nostalgia to it, and also it's still Tennant.
Well, yeah.
And the Russell era. So I'm always going to have a soft spot for it.
Yeah. It's watchable.
Yeah, as far as Christmas ones go, there are better ones. There have been better ones by this point. I have been a better one by this point, but still. So, next up, Series 3 is fully underway. This is technically Series 3, but it's also kind of not. We're gonna treat these as just, this is gonna say 2006 Christmas special on the title of the podcast.
The reason why we felt like Invasion of Earth was more Series 2 was because we got introduced to the new Doctor and it was the same companions, so it's very much a continuation. Whereas from this point on, the Christmas specials become very standalone entertainment episodes rather than continuing.
And that's not a bad thing. Like I said, the whimsical silliness of the Christmas specials, there's just something lovely about it, but I like it when a Christmas special goes all in, like the Christmas Invasion or Last Christmas, Capaldi's first Christmas special. You know, all those years of having Matt Smith Christmas specials that were just not good. And then all of a sudden it's like, here's Capaldi's first Christmas special with Nick Frost as Santa, and you're like, whoa, that was good. But anyway, that's a story for many years' time.
The
Crabs.
The Witch and the Wardrobe.
Oh, the Doctor, the Wizard, and the Doctor, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
It wasn't the Witch and the Wardrobe because that's That's obviously
the Doctor, the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe.
That's it. I like
the one with Bill Bailey in it.
If anybody on the podcast could see my face right now,
Christmas specials.
It's like,
I've genuinely watched that special and the Snowmen.
Oh,
the first one with Clara in it.
Russell E. Grant. Is that his name?
Richard E. Grant. Richard E. Grant is an amazing actor.
But that episode.
And Ian McKellen as a snow globe.
Why?
Like, oh, good God. They just got so bad. But anyway, we've got Series 3 to come. So Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones. Smith and Jones is next. We're going to be up on the moon with a platoon of
the
Jadoon.
straw bitch.
With the straw bitch. There you go. I was going to have a question for the chat, and I've completely forgotten. I know what it was going to be. The chat? The chat. The Kasterpodians out there. I'm so used to streaming, which I haven't done in so long.
F in the chat.
Kasterpodians, I have a question for you. And I want you to let us know what you think of this.
Is this going to be a one that I have to
Twitter.
answer first?
Yes, you do.
Okay, cool.
Obviously, it's kind of hard to think about it because Donna returned in Series 4, but do you think Donna would be remembered in the same way she is now if she only appeared in Christmas Invasion?
No, I don't think so.
Even as the character to tell the Doctor to stop, because that is quite a poignant moment in the revival of Who. But
it is. But
do you think she'd be remembered in the same way?
Do you remember it generally?
Well, that scene
section.
No, not really.
Exactly. That's my point. Because despite the fact that it was quite
how monumental was Astrid?
Astrid.
Exactly.
Who's Astrid?
Kylie Minogue.
Oh, lol.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is my point. Like, the Christmas specials, I don't feel like are there to be remembered. Hence why they started becoming kind of celebrity specials.
And kind of really bad.
Yeah. I don't think Donna's character would be remembered anywhere near as much if it was just a guest star of Catherine Tate for an episode. Because, yeah, okay, the whole thing about needing someone to tell you when to stop is poignant. But how many poignant lines has Doctor Who had? Like, hundreds. So,
yeah.
I personally don't think anyone would have remembered Donna for that. I think it would have just been, oh, do you remember that funny Catherine Tate episode, lol? Like, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as sort of memorable if she hadn't gone on to then be Donna in Suitsville. Because I think the point of it now, in hindsight, is that we can look back at it and go, oh, Russell T Davies actually started doing a clever thing when he brought Donna back that referenced the Runaway Bride in the way that we wouldn't have got had she only been in it for one episode. But the fact that she does come back and the fact that we know she comes back and we kind of know her character and her plot point and whatever makes it more poignant that she's in this episode, because it all kind of leads back to the whole you're not special, because obviously that becomes a bit of a thing through Donna's era.
That arc we'll get to.
Yeah, so it's kind of hinted at, but I think had she not come back, that would have just been a passing comment. So, yeah, no, I don't think she would have been. But feel free to let us know on Twitter.
Yeah.
Or maybe someplace else.
What's the Twitter, Amy? What's the Twitter?
At Kasterpod.
At Kasterpod, indeed. But yeah, so we're going to be back at some point next week. I say next week. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
It's never next week.
It's never next week. At the moment, in terms of my work, I am very busy. There's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. We almost didn't get a chance to record this because I might have been staying at work until God knows what time tonight. So it may not even happen. So we'll keep you in the loop.
We're on a very busy schedule.
Yeah, normally I post on the Twitter the week that we stream, or the week that we stream. I keep saying stream.
Stop
the week
it.
that we
record.
The week that we record, or the day that we record, saying send us your questions. So normally, if you see that tweet, there's a good chance that we'll be recording it that week or that day if it's a Wednesday.
I feel like at this point,
please send us your answers to the question whether.
Huh?
I was going to just please feel free to send us your answer to whether you think Donna would be remembered in the same way if she were only in a Christmas Invasion at Kasterpod. Amy.
I was going to say, I feel like at this point we should maybe just stop apologising for the fact that it's always a longer break than it is.
Just put up with it, guys.
Because unfortunately, our life is busy and things happen. And you guys know this. We literally reiterate this every time we record.
You're right. Like, we apologise a lot, but in reality, nobody gets difficult.
No,
and podcasts are so
if
spotty,
somebody's binging it,
we can't thank you enough for that.
If somebody's binging it, they're going to go to the next episode and be like, "Why are they apologising so much? Like, how long was it?" They're not going to know how long it was in between episodes. So I'm really sorry for apologising so much, friends. We'll probably try and stop now, but just be aware that we'll probably. We do try to record these every 2 weeks. However, at the moment, it's minimum, more like once a month. So
next week is probably going to be a no because, like I said, I'm like hella busy at work.
So thank you very much for putting up with the spotty schedule. We really appreciate the fact that you still listen. And just keep in mind that we don't have any intention to stop recording these anytime soon.
Oh, God, no.
So, like...
If we were going to kill it off, we would tell you.
If it's been a few weeks since we've recorded an episode, just tweet us and be like, hey, like, you're still alive? Or are you, like, oh, any idea when you're recording the next episode? Because we are getting to it, and it is always at the forefront of every Wednesday. We always sit down and go, let's record the podcast, and then something will happen and get in the way. So... we don't intend to
stop. It's never that we just think, let's not do it.
Yeah. So, if it has been a few weeks, please bear in mind that we will be getting to it, and we're going to try and never leave it longer than a month. So, please bear with us. Thank you so much for listening. We really, really appreciate it. And it's really, like, we do still really enjoy recording them. Like, you know, we were both really eager to try and get it recorded tonight because we enjoy it. So, yeah. Thanks.
And we love that you guys enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just looking at statistics, we have, since we came back, this is the 8th episode we've recorded since we came back, and we've already had over 2,500 plays overall.
Hey, that's really good.
And for as much as this isn't really a podcast starting out, and you know, we got a bit of a leg up thanks to Who Culture, but like,
not the point.
That's still really good.
So
thank you all if you're enjoying this, and recommend us to your friends who like Doctor Who, or are maybe going to rewatch Doctor Who, or you're going to finally get them to watch Doctor Who. Why not get them to listen to our podcast at the same time?
Great.
Why not? You know, not even that. You know, as much as the first lot of this podcast exists on Who Culture, it's not that I'd turn around and say, don't go and listen to it, because we are still very proud of what we did there.
Oh, absolutely.
And at the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's just got different theme music.
And if anybody
not as good theme music.
If anybody has any links to Nerdcubed Dan, please let him know we recorded a Doctor Who podcast.
Yeah, we'd love to have him on. That would be the most amazing. It wouldn't be an episode review. It would just be like an hour of us and Dan just chatting.
And it would just have to be
Doctor Who, and it would be wonderful.
It would have to be a post-Watershed 18+ episode, because let's be honest, Dan's hardly going to not swear, is he?
Trust me. Obviously, we don't swear in this podcast. If we try, I mark it and I censor it.
Yeah.
But if we could go to town on just absolutely laying into Doctor Who and stuff we love and stuff we don't, my God, you guys would need to clean your ears.
I mean, Dan's Patreon.
Have a shower.
Dan's Patreon Doctor Who podcast is literally called F Yeah Doctor Who. So that puts into perspective what his opinion of Doctor Who became in the last few series. But it would be I know he loves Russell T Davies era and Stephen Moffat series, so it'd be really interesting to actually get him on to talk about a previous episode. No, it's never going to happen. But if anybody has any links, hit me up.
The closest thing I can do is because he's done stuff with Cultaholic, and I can be like, I used to work with the Cultaholic guys. Do you want to do something? That's probably the best.
But it's not about wrestling.
I've got a book with your writing in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Just keep in the loop on the Twitter at Kasterpod as to when we'll be uploading our next episode for Smith and Jones.
Hey.
A platoon of Jadoon on the Moon. If you want to start sending your questions into the old Twitter account, then please do. About anything.
Use the hashtag.
Whatever you send us. Well, I mean, just at us, at Kasterpod.
What's the hashtag?
Or hashtag Kasterpod.
Do we have a hashtag?
Kasterpod. It's the same.
It is just Kasterpod.
Yeah, Kasterpod.
Okay. Use the hashtag
Hence why it's just
Kasterpod.
Just at Kasterpod.
At Kasterpod.
Makes more sense.
Hashtag Kasterpod.
But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate all of you lovely Kasterpodians.
Rich.
Have a wonderful rest of your day / week.
What? Where can they find you?
Oh my God, Amy's telling me to tell you where to find me. Find me on Twitter and on Instagram and on OnlyFans. Not OnlyFans, sorry.
Sorry.
At Pickup Change Toe. Amy, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, but I don't really tweet. At Ames_Elizabeth.
Yes. Well, as I was saying, have a wonderful rest of your weekend, week, day, night, wank, whatever. However you get off to this podcast is totally up to you.
What happened to not swearing?
Wank isn't a swear word. It's the big three we can't say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the rule of swearing, I guess. Take care, you lot. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
I'm going to go destroy Amy with my big sweaty baubles.
Oh, why? I'd already forgotten
Take care, guys. Goodbye.
Gross.